The alien queen's scream cut through the smoke-filled air as her palace crumbled around her. Eloria's twin moons reflected in her wide, panicked eyes. Her own guards, the ones sworn by blood oath, turned their weapons on her. "They're here for the quantum key," she realized, clutching the small, glowing artifact hidden beneath her robes. Betrayal stung sharper than any blade. Blaster fire hissed. The marble throne room shook. Lyra stumbled back, cornered, and then, a blur of movement, a human soldier, armor scorched, rifle empty, leapt in front of her. "What are you doing?" Lyra gasped, stunned. "Not letting you die today," he growled. The guards fired. Plasma bolts sizzled. The human took the hits, shielding her with his own battered body. Blood spattered the floor. Why would a human, a species she'd been taught to distrust, risk his life for her? "Move," he barked, grabbing her hand. Together, they bolted down the shattered hallways as the palace collapsed. For the first time in centuries, the alien queen wasn't in command. She was running, with a stranger, but deep down something told her this man could be the only chance to save not just her world, but the entire galaxy. The skies of Eloria burned red. Lyra staggered through the rubble-strewn hallways of her citadel, every breath laced with acrid smoke. Screams echoed from below, the sounds of her people dying as Zyphar ships blotted out the twin moons. She had always known this day might come. The quantum key, an artifact of impossible power, had made Eloria a target for centuries. But she never imagined her own guards would betray her. "Your Highness, surrender the key!" Captain Valen shouted, his once loyal eyes now cold and mechanical. The Zyphar Collective had infected him, nanobots glinting across his veins. Lyra backed away, clutching the glowing relic beneath her robes. "You swore to protect me, Valen. I swore to protect Eloria, and you are no longer its future." A crack of plasma fire rang out. Lyra braced for pain, but it never came. A figure darted between her and Valen, armor battered and smoking. A human. His breath was ragged, his rifle clattering to the floor as energy blasts seared into his chest plate. "Go!" the human shouted. Lyra froze. Why would a human, a stranger to this galaxy, risk his life for her? "I said move!" he roared, seizing her arm and dragging her down the hallway as debris rained from above. The palace quaked violently. Whole walls imploded as Zyphar drones poured through the breach. They sprinted, weaving between collapsing archways. Lyra struggled to keep pace in her ceremonial gown. "Who are you?" she demanded breathlessly. "Corporal Ethan Cross, Interstellar Human Forces. And you?" "I'm the queen of this dying world," she snapped. "Not if I can help it." Ethan skidded them to a halt at a blast door. "Hold still." He ripped open a panel and began rerouting power with surprising finesse. "You're a soldier and an engineer?" Lyra asked, clutching her chest as her heart pounded. "Survival teaches you things." Sparks flew. The door groaned open just as Zyphar drones came screeching down the hall. Ethan shoved her through and slammed the controls, sealing it shut. They collapsed against the wall on the other side, breathing hard. "Listen to me, Your Majesty," Ethan said, his voice low and urgent. "The Zyphar aren't just here for your throne. They want the key." Lyra's eyes widened. "How do you know about that?" "Because they've destroyed 5 human colonies already searching for it." His jaw tightened. "This isn't just your war anymore. It's ours." For a long moment, neither spoke. Beyond the door, metallic claws scratched against steel. Lyra had no reason to trust this battered human soldier. But as his blood dripped onto the floor and his gaze stayed steady on hers, a strange warmth flickered in her chest. Perhaps he wasn't her enemy. Perhaps he was her only ally left in the galaxy. The twin moons of Eloria cast a pale light over the palace as it burned. Once a symbol of unshakable power, the citadel was now reduced to crumbling towers and smoke-choked hallways. Outside, the sky was alive with fire. Zyphar warships tearing through the atmosphere, their engines screaming like tortured souls. Queen Lyra ran, her heart pounding in her ears. The ornate hem of her gown was torn and blackened. Every step sent pain lancing up her leg where a falling beam had grazed her earlier. Behind her, the palace guards, the ones who had sworn fealty with blood oaths, pursued like predators. "Your Majesty," came Captain Valen's voice, cold and distorted through the nanobot infection, now veining his skin. "Surrender the quantum key. Spare your people further suffering." She pressed her back against a crumbling pillar, clutching the glowing relic to her chest. The key's faint hum resonated with her heartbeat. "You were like a brother to me, Valen," she whispered, tears blurring her vision. "How could you?" "For Eloria's survival," Valen replied from somewhere in the smoke. "This war cannot be won, but with the key, the Zyphar promise peace." "Peace," she spat. "You're their puppet now." A crash to her left made her flinch. A section of the marble ceiling collapsed, sending up a choking cloud of dust. When she looked up, she saw him. Not Valen, not a guard, a human soldier. His armor was scorched, dented, one shoulder pauldron missing entirely. The white insignia of the interstellar human forces was smeared with soot. He looked like he'd crawled out of a dozen firefights and survived through sheer stubbornness. He was aiming a rifle at Valen's approaching silhouette, but the weapon clicked. Empty. "Damn it," he hissed under his breath. Lyra stared, frozen. What in the galaxy was a human doing here? Then Valen raised his plasma pistol. Lyra's breath caught, but before Valen could fire, the human moved, throwing himself in front of her as a plasma bolt seared the air. It struck him squarely in the chest plate, staggering him. He gritted his teeth, barely keeping on his feet. "What are you doing?" Lyra cried. "Keeping you alive, Your Highness," he growled. "Now move." He grabbed her wrist and yanked her down a side hallway as more plasma bolts hissed past them. "I don't need your help," she protested, trying to pull away. "You're welcome to stay and die then," he shot back, dragging her through the chaos. They barreled down a grand staircase as explosions rocked the palace. Paintings of Eloria's royal lineage toppled and burned. Outside the shattered windows, Zyphar drones swarmed like locusts, their metallic bodies glinting in the flames. "Who are you?" she demanded again. "Corporal Ethan Cross. Lost my squad when your little war zone swallowed our recon ship," he said between ragged breaths. "Now I'm stuck babysitting an alien queen. Lucky me. I didn't ask for this." "Neither did I." They skidded to a halt in front of a sealed blast door. Ethan knelt, prying open a side panel with a combat knife. Sparks flew as he hotwired the controls. "You're good with Elorian tech?" Lyra asked, surprised. "Tech's tech. Wires don't care what species you are." The door groaned open just as Zyphar drones clattered down the hallway behind them, red eyes glowing like embers. "Go! Go!" Ethan shoved her through and slammed the control pad, sealing the door with a hiss. They collapsed against the wall, panting. For a moment, there was only the sound of their racing heartbeats and the distant thrum of Zyphar ships. Lyra stared at him. This human, dirty, bleeding, clearly out of his depth, had just saved her life. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Why risk yourself for me?" Ethan met her gaze, eyes hardened by loss. "Because the Zyphar aren't just your problem. They've hit 5 human colonies already. And if they get that key," he gestured at the relic clutched in her hands, "they'll burn everything. Yours. Mine. Everyone's." She looked away, gripping the quantum key tighter. For centuries, Eloria had stood alone against its enemies. Now, with her palace in ruins, and her people betrayed, her only ally was a human soldier with nothing left to lose. "Fine," she said at last. "We escaped together." Ethan smirked grimly. "Now you're talking." But neither of them noticed the faint metallic scratching on the other side of the blast door. The drones were already cutting through, and time was running out. The shriek of tearing metal echoed behind them. "They're cutting through already," Ethan said, his voice tight. Sweat ran down his soot-streaked face as he peered down the dark maintenance tunnel ahead. "We've got minutes. Maybe less." Lyra lifted her chin, trying to mask the tight knot of fear in her chest. "Where does this lead?" "Somewhere that isn't here." He gave her a hard look. "Unless you have a better idea, Your Majesty?" She bristled at the sarcasm. "I was managing fine before you stumbled in." "Really?" he shot back, gesturing at the ruined palace behind them. "Looked like you were about one plasma bolt away from being history." Before she could reply, a thunderous crash shook the blast door. Sparks rained from its seams. The Zyphar drones weren't waiting politely. "Argue later. Move now." Ethan grabbed a cracked emergency torch from his belt, its blue light flickering as he pushed forward into the narrow tunnel. The air inside was thick with dust and the faint scent of ozone. Lyra followed cautiously, her gown snagging on jagged pipes. "You're not exactly dressed for running from killer robots," Ethan muttered. "Forgive me for not anticipating betrayal and planetary invasion this morning," she snapped. He chuckled, low and humorless. "Fair." They walked in silence for a moment, boots echoing on the metal grating. Then Lyra asked the question that had been burning in her mind since she first saw him. "How did a human soldier end up in Eloria's war zone?" "Recon mission," he replied. "Parallel universe, anomaly near your system. My squad got ambushed by Zyphar scouts. I'm the last one standing." His voice tightened. "For now." "You're far from home, Corporal." "Yeah, and so are you, if we don't get the hell off this rock." The tunnel opened into a vast underground hangar, a graveyard of half-destroyed fighter crafts and supply crates. "This is our way out?" Lyra asked, surveying the wreckage. "Better than staying. Help me find something flyable." Ethan began checking the crafts one by one, cursing under his breath as systems failed to respond. Lyra moved cautiously, her hand never leaving the quantum key hidden in her robes. It hummed faintly, as if sensing their peril. "You said the Zyphar attacked human colonies?" she asked. "5 so far. Wiped clean." His tone was grim. "They're not just after your throne. They're after that thing." He nodded at the faint glow under her robe. Lyra hesitated. "How do you know about the key?" "Intel leaks. The Zyphar don't hide what they want. Whatever that thing does, it's worth killing whole civilizations for." She tightened her grip on it. "It's not a weapon. It's a lock. A lock. To dimensions unseen. My ancestors called it the Ethereal Gate." She looked away. "If the Zyphar get it open, they'll unleash something far worse than themselves." Ethan raised a brow. "Great. So we're babysitting the galactic apocalypse." A shrill alarm blared suddenly. Lights across the hangar flickered to red. "They found us," Ethan muttered. From the far end of the hangar, a squad of Zyphar drones skittered out, their metallic limbs clicking against the floor, their red optics fixed on the pair. "Cover me," Ethan barked, jumping into the nearest fighter craft. He yanked open its cockpit and began hot-wiring the ignition. Lyra stared at the oncoming drones, panic rising in her throat. "I don't have weapons." "Use anything. Throw a wrench if you have to." One drone leapt, its claws flashing. Lyra grabbed a heavy supply crate and shoved it over. The drone crashed to the floor with a metallic screech. "Nice," Ethan shouted. "Keep them off me another 30 seconds." Lyra dodged another drone's slicing blade, her heart pounding. She grabbed a loose metal rod and swung it wildly, knocking a drone back. I am a queen, she hissed, more to herself than anyone, not a soldier. Welcome to the club, Ethan growled, sparks flying as he forced wires together. The craft roared to life. Get in, he shouted as the cockpit hissed open. Lyra didn't hesitate. She scrambled into the seat behind him as the drones closed in. Ethan slammed the controls, and the fighter lifted shakily off the hangar floor. Hold on. The fighter's engines screamed as they shot out of the hangar tunnel, debris raining down as sci-fi fire chased them. Outside, the burning city sprawled beneath them like a graveyard. As they streaked toward the atmosphere, Lyra looked back at her ruined home, her people's cries echoing in her mind. Are you ready to fight for more than just your world, Your Majesty? Ethan asked, glancing back at her. She met his gaze, her eyes hard. I don't have a choice. Good. Neither do I. Behind them, Zyphar warships gave chase, and the stars themselves seemed to burn. Their escape had begun. The fighter's console screamed in protest as plasma bolts ripped past the hull. We're not going to outrun them in this thing. Ethan shouted, wrestling the controls. The Zyphar warships loomed closer in the rear viewport, their sleek black forms cutting through the stars like predators on the hunt. Lyra gripped the edge of her seat, her knuckles white. Do you have a plan, or are we just going to die spectacularly? Working on it, Ethan barked. A proximity alarm wailed. A bolt grazed the left thruster, and the craft lurched violently, throwing them against their harnesses. Ahead, a swirling mass of energy pulsed in space like a living storm, a quantum rift. That anomaly, Lyra whispered. It wasn't there before. It's a gravity well now, Ethan said grimly. We're being pulled in. Can we escape it? Not without snapping this bird in two. Buckle up. Before Lyra could protest, Ethan shoved the throttle forward. The craft plunged into the churning vortex, stars stretching into streaks of white as space itself seemed to bend and fracture. For a moment, there was only silence. Then impact. The fighter crashed through dense clouds, alarms shrieking, and slammed into a swampy clearing with a bone-jarring thud. Mud and steam sprayed in all directions as the craft skidded and finally came to a shuddering halt. Ethan groaned, his forehead bleeding from a gash. Still alive, I think. Lyra unclipped her harness, wincing. Where are we? No clue. He pulled a cracked display from the console. The rift dropped us somewhere off all known charts. Great. She peered out the viewport. Towering black trees surrounded the clearing, their roots writhing in the mist like serpents. Strange lights flickered deep within the forest, and faint whispers echoed in the air. This world feels wrong, she murmured. The quantum key at her chest pulsed faintly, almost like it recognized the place. Wrong or not, we can't stay in the ship, Ethan said. If those Zyphar ships tracked us here, we're sitting ducks. They stepped out into the swamp, boots sinking slightly into the soft, mossy ground. Ethan kept his rifle raised, useless as it was, while Lyra pulled her robe closer against the chill. Every step brought a sense of being watched. Shadows shifted just beyond the edge of their vision, too fast to catch. I don't like this, Ethan muttered. Feels like we're not alone. You're correct. Lyra's voice was low. This planet, it was forbidden in Elorian records. They called it Zitherus, the world of echoes, a place where reality itself frays. Terrific, just the kind of vacation spot I wanted. As they pushed deeper into the forest, the whispers grew louder, hundreds of overlapping voices murmuring in languages Ethan couldn't understand. Lyra stopped suddenly, her eyes widening. The key, she whispered. It was glowing more brightly now, its hum vibrating through her bones. Ethan glanced at it. Is it supposed to do that? No, it's reacting to something here. A sudden rustle made Ethan spin. A humanoid figure emerged from the mist, its body half metal, half decayed flesh, with glowing red eyes. It was a sci-fi drone, but twisted, corrupted by the strange energies of the planet. "Back," Ethan ordered, raising his rifle. The drone hissed, its movements jerky, as if fighting its own programming. Then impossibly it spoke, not in the mechanical sci-fi tone, but in a fractured, desperate voice. "Queen, Lyra." She froze. "It knows my name." "Not comforting." Ethan shouted, firing a burst at its torso. The rounds barely slowed it. The creature lunged. Ethan tackled Lyra, aside, just as its claws raked the air where she had stood. "Run," he yelled. They sprinted through the forest, dodging roots and low-hanging vines. More shapes moved in the mist, figures with glowing eyes and twisted, metallic limbs. "They're everywhere." Lyra gasped. "This way." Ethan pulled her toward a break in the trees where faint light glimmered. They burst into a clearing at the heart of the forest. A massive structure loomed before them, ancient and alien, its spires covered in glowing runes that seemed to shift and writhe. "The Temple of the Gate," Lyra whispered in awe. "Temple? Great. Do temples come with heavy artillery?" She ignored him, stepping closer. The quantum key thrummed wildly now, pulling her toward a pedestal in the center. "This is why the key reacted," she said. "This is one of the locks." "Meaning?" Ethan asked, glancing nervously at the tree line where red eyes flickered. "Meaning the Zyphar aren't our only problem anymore," Lyra said. "Something worse was imprisoned here long ago, and it's stirring." Behind them, the corrupted drones began to emerge from the mist, surrounding the clearing. Ethan cursed under his breath, checking his useless rifle. "We're cornered." Lyra touched the pedestal, her eyes glowing faintly as strange symbols lit up around them. "Maybe not." The ground rumbled. Energy surged from the temple spires, forming a shimmering barrier that pushed the drones back. "For now," she said, turning to Ethan, "we're safe. But if we don't find a way off this planet, we won't stay that way." Ethan sighed, sinking to one knee. "So to sum up, we're stranded, surrounded, and standing on top of a galactic doomsday device." Lyra managed a small, grim smile. "Welcome to my world, Corporal." The inner chamber of the temple pulsed with strange light, soft and blue, yet cold as starlight. Crystalline pillars arched into the darkness above, humming with energy. Ancient murals covered the walls, depicting stars being born and devoured, gates opening between worlds, and beings cloaked in shadow and flame. Lyra stood in the center, the quantum key in her hands, its glow syncing with the temple's heartbeat. "This place predates the Lorian Empire by millennia," she whispered. "My people didn't build this, they inherited it." Ethan paced nearby, eyeing the shadows. "So your ancestors were caretakers?" "Guardians," she said softly, "of the gate, of what lies behind it." Ethan crossed his arms. "You keep saying that like I should know what's waiting behind door number apocalypse." Lyra turned. "A creature, older than galaxies, a being made of pure entropy. The Zyphar worship it, or maybe obey it. If the gate opens fully, it won't just devour one world. It'll collapse the boundary between dimensions." Ethan let out a breath. "So, worst case scenario, reality ends." "Yes." "Well," he said, "at least the stakes are clear now." A sudden clang echoed through the chamber, metal on stone. Both turned, weapons ready. From the misted hallway beyond, a figure emerged, tall, cloaked in crimson, with eyes like burning coals. Lyra's breath caught. "High Commander Varen." The man removed his hood. His features were sharp and ageless, marked by the ceremonial tattoos of the Lorian war caste. "Your Majesty," he said coolly. "Still running, I see." Ethan raised his rifle. "Friend of yours." He led my elite guard, Lyra replied, her voice tight. He died at the Citadel. I was reborn, Varen said, stepping forward. The Zyphar showed me the truth. You're clinging to a dying order. Lyra, the gate is meant to open. You betrayed me, she said, her voice cracking. You let them in. I saved you from delusion, Varen snapped. We were never meant to be rulers. We were meant to be conduits. Vessels. The Zyphar understand that. You still don't. Ethan narrowed his eyes. Let me guess, you want the key. Varen smiled coldly. Of course. Give it to me willingly, and I'll let you both walk away. No, Lyra said, stepping back. You don't understand what's behind the gate. I understand perfectly, he said, and I welcome it. Without warning, Varen raised his arm, and the air around him shimmered. From the shadows, corrupted drones burst forth, their bodies fused with strange tech, their movements eerily smooth. Back! Ethan shouted, firing. His plasma rounds hit a drone squarely, but it barely flinched. They're stronger. Temple's amplifying them, Lyra said, dragging Ethan behind one of the crystal pillars. It's built to channel energy, not just contain it. We're going to need a new plan, Ethan growled. Lyra clutched the key, focusing her mind. Symbols on the ground lit beneath her feet, forming a protective sigil. I can use the key to activate a defensive seal, but I need time. Ethan nodded, then turned to face the enemy. Then I buy you that time. He charged from cover, ducking and weaving between blasts. His rifle buzzed, and he slammed the butt into the faceplate of one drone, then shot another through the eye with a perfect point-blank shot. Varen stepped through the chaos, calm and unreadable. Foolish, he said, raising his hand. A wave of kinetic energy struck Ethan in the chest, sending him flying across the chamber into a wall with a sickening crunch. Ethan! Lyra screamed. He didn't move. Her heart slammed in her chest, but she had no time to grieve. The key burned in her hands now, a white-hot light spilling across the floor. The ground trembled. The gate responded. Varen's eyes widened. No, you can't. The lock. It was never yours, Lyra said. It answers only to blood untainted by greed. She thrust the key into the heart of the sigil. A shockwave burst outward, blinding and deafening. The drones froze, then disintegrated into ash. Varen staggered back, screaming, as energy surged into his body and tore it apart molecule by molecule. When the light faded, he was gone. Silence returned to the temple. Lyra dropped to her knees beside Ethan. His chest rose and fell, shallow but steady. You stubborn soldier, she whispered, tears falling. You said you'd buy me time, not throw your life away. His eyes fluttered open, and he managed a pained grin. Did we win? For now, she said, smiling through her tears. For now. The temple of the gate shuddered as ancient machinery groaned back to life. Spires lit with crackling energy. Runes shifted like living snakes. From the depths of the chamber, a sound emerged. Not a roar, not a whisper, but something deeper. A hunger that made Ethan's skin crawl. Lyra clutched his hand, pulling him to his feet. The gate, it's stirring. Varen's interference weakened the seals. I only delayed it. Ethan grimaced, leaning on his rifle for support. So this thing behind the door, how bad are we talking? Think the death of stars, the collapse of every universe, a devouring tide of nothingness. Ethan let out a dry laugh. Fantastic. I hate Mondays. A deep rumble split the chamber. Fissures spread across the walls as tendrils of shadow seeped through, reaching, grasping, as if tasting freedom. Lyra. Ethan's voice was low. That thing wants out. I know. Her voice broke. There's only one way to stop it. I have to use the key, not to seal it, but to destroy it. But doing so, She looked down at her trembling hands. The quantum key pulsed faintly, responding to her fear. It will burn me out. The key's energy will consume me entirely. Ethan's jaw clenched. There's no other way. None. For a long moment, he stared at her. The alien queen who had once seemed untouchable, now standing before him, so human in her vulnerability. You're not doing it alone. She shook her head. Ethan. Don't argue, he said firmly. I didn't crawl out of that wreck and drag us through hell just to let you die alone at the finish line. Tears welled in her luminous eyes. You'd burn too. I've burned before, he said with a wry smile. Guess I've got practice. Together they stepped toward the dais. The gate thrashed behind its seals now, a massive eye forming in the darkness, gazing into their souls. You have courage, the creature hissed in their minds. Its voice was velvet and venom. But even now you could kneel. Serve me, and I shall remake your worlds. Spare your lives. Lyra's grip tightened on Ethan's hand. We're done kneeling. Suit yourself. The voice turned to a growl. Then burn. The gate exploded outward. Tendrils of shadow lashed at them. Ethan fired wildly, but the rounds passed through harmlessly. Lyra raised the key high, chanting in the ancient tongue of her ancestors. Symbols burst into life around them, forming a sphere of light that pushed the darkness back. But the energy surged violently. Pain shot through her body as arcs of raw power burned her veins. Ethan caught her as she staggered. Stay with me, he shouted. I can't hold it alone, she cried. Then don't. He pressed his palm to the key, and white-hot light erupted. His body convulsed as energy coursed through him too, but he didn't let go. Together, their voices rose in unison. By the blood of stars and the breath of worlds, we sever the chain. We end the hunger. The gate screamed, a soundless shriek that rattled the foundations of the universe. Tendrils writhed, then disintegrated into motes of fading light. The eye imploded, and the gate cracked like glass, shattering into a billion fragments. Silence. The temple began to collapse, ancient stones falling around them. Ethan and Lyra lay on the floor, bodies smoking from the overload of energy. Did we do it? Ethan rasped. Lyra turned her head weakly, smiling faintly. We did. The gate is gone. Good. He let out a shaky laugh. Then I can rest. Her hand found his. Not yet, she whispered. I won't let you. Light flared around her as the remnants of the key's energy flowed into her hands. She pressed them to his chest. Ethan gasped as warmth spread through his broken body. You're healing me, he croaked. Somewhat, she said, her voice fading. There's only enough for one. No, Lyra, don't you dare. Protect them, Ethan. Protect everyone. Her glow dimmed, her body stilled. When Ethan awoke hours later, the temple was gone. Only a crater remained under an alien sky. He sat up, clutching the pendant that had once been the quantum key. I'll protect them, Lyra, he whispered. I swear it. As he gazed into the horizon, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if she was still watching.